second. All right, we're good. All right, so last class when we were talking, we talked about. Let me. If you hit Shift and L, it'll get rid of your lights. If you have cameras in there, it'll get rid of your cameras. If you hit Shift and C as well. But we talked about how. Let's go instead of performance. Let's go to standard. In video games, we can only have so much information in our game. And what you'll notice is that what they're doing is they're taking this information from a high poly mesh. This mesh is about 90,000 polygons, right? And they'll put this information onto this model that is about 76 polygons. All right, so you're saving a lot of geometry when you do that, because we only have so much finite space, only so much computing power when it comes to our games, that we need that space for other things. And the more we optimize our models, the more assets we can put inside of video games. So when it comes to video games, you want to optimize your assets as much as possible. So we talked about the tier breakdown. So this would be like PS5, PS4, PS3, PS2, and then for PS1, this is what you would do. All right. You would just have a plane. They would have an alpha map that would then, and maybe they would make it like a double-sided plane or something, or they'd do something like this, where they'd flip this guy around, and they would do something like this for your coin or some shit like that. So it would have an alpha map. Do you know what an alpha map is?
No.
Okay. An alpha
No.
map is just a black and white mask that lets the computer know what is transparent and what is opaque. Black would make it transparent and white would be opaque. And I think this is actually kind of good because I can show you guys all of these individual processes. So, all right, this is actually a good day of learning, and the ideas, the core of the information will be good no matter what software you go into, but it might differ in the application in the software itself. All right. So let's grab this one, convert it to an editable poly. Um, did I do it over the weekend? I don't know. That's weird. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly unwrap a lot of these models. 21. Yeah, I'm gonna delete this one. This one's no good. So we're gonna use one, two, three. And I think these three will illustrate what I'm trying to show you guys. Let me unfreeze all.
What do you mean by unwrap?
Did I not unwrap anything last class?
You might have just not used the term unwrap.
Okay. Unwrap means to lay it out and it's to lay out the UVs. So did I not go through this last class where I showed you guys how I would go about laying out the UVs and stuff?
Oh, you did.
I did. Okay. Let's go through it again just to as a refresher. All right. So this is the old one. Actually, this one's already unwrapped. So whenever it comes to texturing objects, all right, I'm gonna give you guys some terms as I go to, so that some of these I don't know where I heard them from, but I think it's probably on the job. But Some of them are industry related terms. So when it comes to video games, I feel like I went over this, but let's do it again. Um, there are certain things called geometry hits. So you can see geometry hits in the sense of whenever you look at an asset. So whenever you're playing a video game, you guys might play video games here. It's I want you guys to start using the eye of a 3D modeler to look at the assets in the game that you're working on. So whenever you're playing a character or something, look to see if you can see the geometry hits. The idea for us as 3D artists is we want people to not be able to notice geometry hits. And when I say geometry hits, if you look at this coin right here, you can see that point, that point, that point, that point, that point, that point. Those are called geometry hits. You can tell where that geometry is hitting, where the vertices are protruding. Our job is to make it so that the common eye can't see those geometry hits. And that is why silhouette value is so important when it comes to when you design your characters, when you design your assets. You want to pay attention to the silhouette value. All right. So the best way to check out silhouette value is to open up your material editor, get a material out. Right. You get your material out by just let me see, just delete. You drag a material, and then what I'll do is I'll go here into my base color, and then I will turn this up all the way to black, and then I will use this button right here to assign it. I will then use that to assign it to my object. All right. So when you look at something black and white, the geometry hits can be very easily identifiable and apparent. You can tell all of the polygons that are used to create this. All right. The more polygons we have in our object, the harder it is to tell. You can still tell that they're geometry hits, but they're more subtle. And then the more you get, the more, until you can't even tell, until it's perfectly round, right? And another thing that affects what we see in the silhouette value of our characters and objects is distance. So when you're playing a game, I think we talked about it this last class. If this coin is a coin in a chest somewhere, right? Imagine we have a chest, right? Like this is doubloons or some pirate booty or pirate treasure that you're getting, right? It might be in something that looks like this, right? So you're playing the character. Let me align it to this. So if this is our chest, you have to imagine that this coin would be about this big. So when it comes to the scale of our coin, right? Like if it's going to be in here, it's harder to tell those geometry hits. Make it a little smaller. This is a coin. All right, so let me go copy. Let's make 10. So if our coins are on the table or it's in a pirate chest or something like that, that's how big it is. So you can't really tell those geometry hits unless it's a coin that a character is going to pick up, right? If this is the cutscene, right, or something like that, well, then we're going to have to add a little more geometry to it because this is how close our asset is going to be to the camera. But if it's something like, oh, you're about to play cards and coins are a part of the asset class, right? That is more than enough. This has 76 polygons. In all honesty, if I'm being honest with you, this might be too much. This might be too much because if I'm being 100 with you, what you would probably do in a video game, right? Convert this to an editable poly. What you would do is, if this was like in a chest, you would probably make, boom, something like that. Make it an element. Grab this. Shift, drag it. Actually, shift, drag it down a little bit. And then you would make a fake pile, right? And the reason I'm saying this is because this is something I've had to do, obviously. So I'll chamfer this a little bit. So you get like a fake pile. And then shift, drag, scale it in. Maybe I'll detach this entire thing. Then I'll retopologize it so it has a little more. Maybe do 1,000 polygons. All right. So this might be our pile. Actually, let's reset this. Remove the smoothing groups. Then compute. Here we go. And I might add like a noise modifier to it. Let's add an editable poly. Grab this edge. Control I. Invert it. And then add a noise filter to this. Fractal. Alright, just give it a little bit of noise. I'll do another retopology on it. Do it for like 1,000. Let's get remove. So it's giving me a little bit of variation. Let's convert this to an editable poly. So now I'll have something like this. Painted gold. I'll probably have like some sort of gold texture. And then I would effect center to the object. And then I would lay out a few of these on top of it so that these are the real versions that you see. And then underneath is a base of kind of textured coins. Right? Kind of rotate these a little bit. Grab this. So that from afar, right, looks like we have a bunch of coins and gold and stuff in there, right? When in reality, it's only a few actual models that we're having to use. So this is a technique that you would probably use in an instance just like this, where you're having to create something like this. Let me clear all, auto smooth. There we go. So now, because like when you're running up on this, right, like you're running up on my little chest here, make a physical material, boom. You're only going to see it from so far. Right? You're only going to see it from like right there if the character's going to come pick it up. So you have like some silhouette breakers, which are the actual coins, but the overall is going to be a texture. The general rule is if it's thicker than a quarter, you want to put it in the model. If it's thinner than a quarter, you want to turn it into a texture. All right, so that's the general rule. Some of these rules may have changed. I don't know, but I think the general rule still is, hey, if the object, when I say thinner or thicker than a quarter, I'll show you what I mean. So when you turn it to the side, if your object is thicker than a quarter, this thick, if it's higher than this, model it into throw it into the model, right? So like think about like a belt, right? If it's a belt for a character, how is it going to be on the character? Is it something that they're strapping around them, or is it something that they're putting on their waist? Is it something like a bandolier that they're having stuff dangle from that they might need to generate physics for, or is it something that can easily be paint and a normal map? All right, so these are some of the things that you're asking yourself. You're trying to figure out, all right, how is this going to look? What's this going to be?
Honestly, this just makes me curious, like how games like Cyberpunk, like, because I was playing the Cyberpunk 2077 recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking around, and like everything has like little details, like
Mm.
including like the snacks and stuff. So I was like wondering how many polygons are in everything, like
Okay, let
how it's
me.
rendering
That's
everything.
actually that's a great Cyberpunk 2077. Let's look at the.
The FBI.
We'll take a look at it. I want to see some gameplay, just so we can just take a quick look.
Soon we'll be telling the whole stadium how Liberty Mutual custom.
Okay, this is cool. All right, this is all geometry. All right, geo. This is cool. This is all texture. The ground, the rocks on the ground are texture. The plants are geometry, but they're probably using cards. The smoke is cards. So let's fast forward. I want to see if there's a interior scene that we can take a quick look at. Okay, this is literally what I just showed you. Right here, this mound is a plane that they textured. And then on top of it, this rubble is actual geometry, right? So the idea is you're mixing those two elements because imagine like you're not going to put a grain of sand in a model, right? So for dirt and things like that, that's just a plane with some bits of brick and metal piping and stuff protruding through it. All right. Textures, no actual geometry in there. Okay, so look, this right here is thicker than a quarter. So this is actually geometry. The circle is texture work. That's not actually extruded. So this might be like a rectangle. This this is tricky because this is a just above a quarter, so I'm leaning towards geo, but it easily could be texture. That's texture, right? Those holes that you see, that's texture work. Geometry, geometry. Okay, let's take a look at this scene. The cans are geo. They're probably like 20 polygons, right? Easy to kind of use to dust up a scene, make something interesting look like it's happening in the scene that you're looking at. Flat surface, no geo. Geo, obviously geo. All texture work. So this is an interesting game. This is an interesting test case because a lot of sci-fi stuff, because sci-fi is really good for gaming, right? Like what you'll notice is people tend to do sci-fi games because it doesn't require a lot of geometry. You can do a lot of work in texture alone. And it's usually like bare or barren anyway, or minimalist, so you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah, there are like flying cars in the game, and I was wondering like when your character looks up if it's just like a texture, like if or if they're like actually 3D modeled like the cars and they like move them. Like
Hmm.
um let me see.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, send a link to it.
Yeah,
Send a
I'll
send.
stream I'll stream it right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, send.
Let me
Yeah, let's
see.
see it. Let's see it, and we'll
Where are
discuss.
the cars? They were literally just over here.
All right.
Let me see if I could catch one again. Oh, over here. Like, do you think those are textures? Like they're flying over there? Because I was looking
No,
up
that's
at
not
it and
textures.
I
That's
was
not.
like,
That's actually that's geo. That's geo. It's probably okay.
oh, okay.
So here's what they do. Go back to it. Go back to it. So here's what they'll do
I don't
for
know.
stuff
Oh,
like
oh, yo, I just got ran over.
that.
um, let
So
me get
here's
out of
what
the
what
street.
they would do for something like this is what you're
Yeah.
probably looking at in reality is very very low poly objects. So they're
Okay.
probably like 100 polys, and what they do is
Yeah.
something called distance culling. So the further you are away, it's swapping out the model that you're currently seeing. So so if you try to fly close to it, they're gonna swap the
Oh, here's a
model
close
for
one.
the closer you get, the more geometry the model that they're gonna have. So, like if I showed you mine, so like in
Yeah.
GTA, what they'll do is when you're if you're flying a plane into a city, they're constantly swapping out buildings. So when you're like
Yeah.
1,000 meters away or something like that, you're gonna get the plane. This four quad, piece of garbage. But when you get closer, they'll remove it and then they'll put this. And then when you get closer, they'll remove that and then they'll put this. And then when you get
Oh.
closer, they'll remove that one and then give you the high. And then when you're doing a cutscene, depending on if the cutscene is pre-recorded or if the cutscene is real time, they'll have some higher geometry objects in there. So there's a lot of tricks that they're playing on you. So whenever you're making game assets, depending on the studio you're working at or the engine you're working in, like Unreal, I know has like it can generate auto LODs for you. So okay, LOD. Sorry, I'm going too fast. LOD stands for level of detail. So you might get 3 or 4 LODs in one asset. So like if I made this coin in Unreal would take this guy and it would generate the rest of them for you. The reason that it does that is because it'll say, all right, for this distance you need this, for this distance you need it, and it can do auto. It does pretty decent job in auto doing it for you. But in reality, you want to be the one that controls the amount of detail in your LODs, right? So essentially, you would think about it like this: cutscene, up close, real time, far away, distance. So it might create these 4 LODs. Actually, I can probably pull it up.
It kind of reminds me of how Horizon Zero Dawn does it because it models the entire map. But
Mm-hmm.
instead of it everything being modeled at once, it only models what your character is seeing.
Yes.
What really impresses me lately is how insane mobile games are starting to look.
Yeah, it's crazy how much we're
Like,
able to put into into games now. Let me see if I can see building swapping so that you guys can. Let's see. I don't think anybody's done that yet, but I did find some inside of Unreal. So the Unreal Engine, it does LOD. So like, look at this rock. It goes from okay to okay, then wow, that's a lot. But it's hard to tell the difference when it's doing it in real time. All right, so here we go. Let's see. All right, so 620K, 496, 310, 100, and it goes all the way to 6K. The idea, this class is trying to teach you how to make this look like this, right? The tips and tricks to making your 6K model look like your 620K model, right? And that is part of the skill of being a 3D artist, is that your job is to trick people into believing that when they're looking at this, they're looking at this. So, yeah, this one has 600 triangles, 164, 82, and then 12. And you can see progressively how much less geo you're getting in that. Let's see what this guy's article is about. So like, okay, so here's a perfect example of distance-based culling. So that that building right there is probably like 100 polys. And there's probably trees that you're not seeing. But the closer you get as a character to this, they're going to start populating it with more trees, better looking trees, more geometry trees. You can see how on this tree that you can see in my foreground, I can make out the leaves. I can see the leaves in here. You can't see the leaves on any of these. There's a reason. You don't need to. We can amalgamate. So this tree is probably 30, 40 polys, and this one is probably 300,000 polys. Right? That's just a modular building. Okay. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so did you guys see that? This is Unreal Engine. So he's showing you how the engine changes the model at the further away you get from it. You can see the geometry count is dropping until you get all the way further back there and it's almost just a plane. So the game is constantly just switching out models as you're doing what you're trying to do. until you get to something like this. And because you're so far away, you won't even be able to tell the difference. They're using Max. That's fine. So, yeah, that's the idea. So this Gumby looking building is what you would get if you let it auto do it. But from far away, you can't tell the difference, right? Like, okay, so this is perfect, right? Like, look at the building. As the further you go, the lighting changes. And this is, I believe, is auto. This is your auto LOD system. So, like, you can see the close-up one is super, you can tell the bricks apart. But the further away you get, you start to break down the pieces. HLOD destruction. Oh, there you don't. If you blink, you miss it. Right there when he's going up. You see that? You see that change? When he ran. Right there, he shoots the building. It destroys a little bit, but this is going to change because he's getting closer to it into something that is much higher resolution. Why? Because he's getting closer to it. And the game's like, oh shit, he's coming. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like Toy Story when the toys are like, you're getting closer. Oh, let's play dead. Let's play dead. Right? And the closer he gets, the higher the resolution is going to be. Until you get super close to it, then you'll be able to make out decals, broken windows, peeling paint, bricks, individual bricks, or you'll be able to make out.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been playing games for a long time and I've never once realized that. I mean, it makes sense, but like, I've never paid attention to it, like, ever.
Yeah. Okay. And this is why this field is very interesting for me, is because now when you're going to not. It's like if you own a car and then you see that car on the road like a million times now. Like, the moment you know that this is what's happening, you're gonna start to see it in video games, and you won't be able to unsee it. Right? It's gonna be that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio snapping his finger and pointing at the screen like there. Like, people are going to think you're crazy because you're going to start to see things as geo. Like, everything is going to look like geometry to you for a while, right? You're going to be like, ooh, how is this built? Oh, okay, this is modular, right? And the way that they build this is super cool, super interesting, right? That they do everything modularly, which means they're individual bricks. And there's, oh man, I don't want to get too into the weeds with this, but there's two philosophies when it comes to video game modeling and making stuff for video games, right? Like, you can go the route of, and oh god damn it, I'm gonna confuse you guys because there's just so much when it comes to, like, especially Unreal Engine, because they have Lumen now and they have a lot of things that make buildings and meshes a lot more than than we were able to do before. So how do I explain this without confusing you guys? Textures cost a lot for computing power, and so does geometry. There is this balancing act that you're doing between the amount of geometry and objects versus the amount of texture. There's something called culling, which is C-U-L-L-I-N-G, not calling, like a call or something. Culling. So there's information that needs to be culled whenever you're doing whatever it is you're doing, right? So think about it this way. Whenever I see this object, this building in a video game, the computer has to retrieve that information from somewhere, wherever it's stored. It might be stored on a server, stored in your hard drive somewhere. It has to cull that information to the computer and say, hey, come on. He's trying to see this. This is what he's trying to see. There is different prices that you're going to pay for objects and geometry and then texture, right? So there is this idea that you're constantly fighting with the program to maximize the amount of geometry that you can call and the amount of texture that you can call at a certain time, right? Am I having to call 100,000 textures, which can cost me a lot, or do I want to substitute and call 100,000 pieces, right? So there's this give and take that you're going to have to do constantly of, okay, I've got so many draw calls, I've got so many objects, I've got so much texture that I can put into this single object. Which one am I going for more of? The beauty about Unreal is that it has largely tried to minimize the risk to both. But we still live in a day and age where you still have to worry about things like that. You still have to worry about it. But if you look at this, what it does is it pretty much just craps out the texture. It goes, all right, we're going to take all those textures and we're going to mishmash it into 128 by 128. This texture that you're seeing here is probably a 1024 by 1024 map. So what we're going to do is we're going to crunch the building down to 412 triangles, and the texture map is going to be 128 by 128. However, when you see it in a distance, you won't be able to tell the difference because our eyes aren't good enough to tell that much detail from that distance anyway. So we're constantly fighting this give and take battle, right? It's called this hierarchical level of detail that you're having to deal with all the time. And that's why Fortnite is so friggin' impressive. Even though, like, if you look at this building, it's pretty friggin' nonsensical. Like, you see that, like, because of the way it's modularly built, like, you've got these facades that don't really match up. Like, this doesn't, but because it's modular building, you can get away with a lot. And it's for a video game that's going to be destroyed, you can get away with a lot, right? You'll make like edge pieces, flat pieces, trim pieces, and you'll make an exterior, interior, and then edge. And then you can see that even on this edge, there's not a lot going on. There's no chamfer on the edge to give you an extra highlight or something like that. It's just brick on brick on brick on brick, right? Like, that's all you get, right? If I was modeling something like this for like a video, for like advertising, like you'd want more chamfer so this can catch light, maybe model some of the bricks in, but for a game, this is more than enough, right? So yeah, this is a roundabout way of getting to where we are right now, right? Like, this is really the best illustration of what I'm trying to show you guys. Is like, they're just switching it out on y'all. Like, they're just switching it out. Like, if you ever play a video game, just like try to pay attention to whenever you're close to an object versus when you're far away from it, and see if you can see the model swap, right? Like, the next time you turn on, Marvel Rivals or Cyberpunk or whatever, go far from an object and then go close to it and then see if you can tell when they're switching out the geometry. If you can't tell, they did a really good job. If you can't tell, that artist is a jackass. I'm joking. But, you guys will get the point now that, oh, okay, we're going for less geo for this reason. And that's what I've been trying to kind of get across to you guys is there's a reason why you will go to a model that kind of looks like this, right? And far, far, far away, you're getting a plane, right? This is what you're getting. This is all I can afford for you, right? So You might get close. Ooh, it looks like they put so much info into this. But far away, what they'll do is they'll remove all those coins and then just leave the little plane in there, right? Things like that. And it's also called MIP mapping, right? Like, and that's doing the same thing but for textures. So these are some of the things that you guys will learn as you progress more in the class and you practice it yourself. And yeah, so let's continue with this bad boy. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to quickly unwrap these. All right. So this guy right here. And the idea is I'm going to, I'm not going to unwrap this one. This one's way too close to the final model. And if you tried to bake, like if you baked from this, you're just a jackass. You shouldn't be baking this. This is in-game model. But this, and this we will bake from. I've already unwrapped this. This one's a pretty easy model to unwrap. You go unwrap UVW, you open it up, boom, it's already unwrapped. All right, cool. I believe this one is this one. Let's do unwrap. Open it up. All right, so this one is this one. I'm thinking maybe I should combine all of them. No, I'll teach you guys a lesson with that instead. All right, I'm gonna open this one up. Boom, like so. Unwrap UVW, open it up. All right, you can see that my geometry is mad funky right now. All right, that's cool. The best way to start whenever you're doing an unwrap is to do a clean unwrap. So I'm going to convert this to an editable poly. I'm going to do UV mapping clear. That's going to clear all pre-existing unwraps on it. Convert to an editable poly. All right, so whenever you're modeling objects, as you're pushing and you're pulling polygons around, as you're doing all of that, you are affecting the UVs, right? You're affecting that UV selection that I just showed you. This isn't clean enough yet. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna do Shift, FC, Shift, drag like so. Control. Let's weld this. Actually, delete this. Grab this. Right click it and then weld it. It's going to go from 320 to 290. That's perfectly fine. And I'll actually remove that. So this is my new poly count. This is about 256. From 256, we've got 76 to 2. And then we've got this one, which is kind of like in-game cutscene model. All right. So what we will do is I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to do my UV mapping clear because, okay, let me just show you again. Let's go unwrap UVW and then let's open it up. Okay, it's got some pretty good UVs. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, God, that's still bad. That's bad. All right, convert this to an editable poly. All right, so here's a general rule. If the edges aren't contributing to the silhouette value of your model, get rid of it. So these because it's a low poly, right? I'm not gonna turbo smooth this at any point in time. This does this affect the geometry? Does this affect the silhouette at any point in time? No. Control, backspace, get rid of that. Okay, look at that. Look at that. It moved a little bit. But was that significant enough to keep it? No. Right? If it was doing something like this, and then I got rid of it and I got that much of a reaction, I'd be like, oh man, you are really affecting the silhouette value of that shape. But with what we're doing, this is perfectly fine. All right? And if I'm being, I don't want to get into the weeds again. But if I'm being a better teacher, I would do something like this. Dot loop it. And then I'd collapse this. And what that does is it gets rid of unnecessary geometry on the inside and leaves me with a little extra on the border, so that when I look at it this way, I'm getting smooth, but it's not affecting as much there, right? But I digress, right? Like if I was in a studio or something, that's the levels that you'd be going to. You'd be going to like, all right, let's kill as much of this as we can. But for this object, we will be going through all these. We've got this one, and then we've got the plane. And I'll unwrap all of it just so I can show you guys what those levels do. All right. Let's hide the selection. Okay, so this guy's unwrapped. This guy is not. So let's go unwrap UVW. Open it in our editor, and now what I will do is I've got it cleared, centered here. I can, okay, so here's my rule of thumb. 45-degree angles stay with the nearest flat surface. 90-degree angles stay straight. What that means is, for this edge right here, would I leave it with this piece or this piece? I would more rather leave it with this front-facing piece. So what I'll do is this, like that, control, like that, and I would right-click in here, and I would break them. I'd select those edges. Okay, so let me not go too fast. If I select this polygon and then I select using by element, what that's going to do is whenever I select a single polygon, because this is just allows me to select a polygon, but when I toggle this on, it allows me to select everything attached to that polygon. All right, so now I can do the same for this piece, leaving me with this centerpiece. And I told you guys last week, whenever I'm doing something like a cylinder, I like projection based unwrapping for those. And what I'll do is I just want to make sure that I have the orientation correct. So I'm looking at the orientation of the cylinder, X, Y, or Z. And now I've got it fitted onto my cylinder. The next thing I'm going to do in 3ds Max is in my edit UVs, I'm going to deselect and I'm going to select it again, and this is going to allow me to scale this down. But before I start scaling, I want to turn on my textured pattern. All right, there's two ways to check if your pattern is correct in 3ds Max. There's checker pattern, which with this is like, this is the old school method where you just want to make sure that you're getting squares, right? You're getting squares. You're not getting You're not getting let's see, let me show you. You're not getting like squares, rectangles, anything like that, right? That's not what you want. You want them to be squares. The reason is you want a 1-to-1 ratio so that when you texture it, your textures will come out correctly. If you look at the top here, you can see that we've got these long band of triangles or rectangles here that doesn't give us a very good render quality. All right. So for that, what I'll do is select, and then I can scale it down until what I get is squares. I want to get squares out of this. So if I hold down Control, I can increase the size, and then I'll just make sure. But this is not as accurate. You can see I'm just eyeballing to make sure I've got squares. All right. The much more accurate way to check it is by using the textured checker pattern, because not only does it give you those checkers, it also gives you the letters and numbers. So now you can check to see, if I go into my perspective view, I can make sure, okay, this part of the coin right here might need to be flipped, because you can see that when I turn it, I'm getting backwards letters. So my text, whenever I write, I would have to write backwards to make it show up properly. So to fix that, I do my select by element again, grab it, and then I can right click, and then I can flip it horizontally. So now I'm writing left to right this way. When I turn it around, left to right this way. Now I know I've got the correct way things are going. Now what I want to do is I want to pack all of my UVs into my UV island. This square right here is my UV island. And whenever you save it out, right, this is when you'll save it out as a 512 by 512, 1024 by 1024. Then there's something called UDIMs, which can confuse you guys. So I'm going to stick to just doing these basic unwraps. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pack and normalize. I talked about this last week. When you pack it and normalize it, it's going to make sure that all of these pieces will be 1-to-1 with each other. So now I'm going to click pack and normalize. And what that means is this E and this G are the same size. And if I put it on this same letter or something, it will all be the same size relative to each other. All right, since they're all the same size relative to each other, I know that whenever I write something on this or I texture on this, they will all be that same exact size. So now what I want to do is I'm going to grab it like that, and then I want to scale all of them up until they fit inside of my, whoops, scroll this one in. All right. And then I'm going to move this guy over here. All right. So all of my pieces are now unwrapped. I can close this out, right click, and then I can convert this to an editable poly. All right. How much time do I have left? Oh, we got some time. 4:06. All right. So with this bad boy, the idea of baking is I'm going to take all of my low poly meshes, and then I'm going to align them to my high poly, and then I'm going to bake this information, right, onto...
I'm sorry, the person you were trying to...
Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to bake all this information onto these low poly meshes. So let's start with... Ooh, okay, which one should I start with first? The plane, number 2, or number 3? Which one would you guys
Dạ
like?
hello nghe chú.
Middle?
Dạ con mới ra ngoài rồi chú.
This is the one you want to see? Or this one?
Yeah, that one works.
Dạ dạ ok chú. Chú mới gọi con đúng không? Dạ.
Okay. I will align...
Màu nâu quá hả chú? Dạ. Ô- dạ, ok rồi, để con hỏi lại cái vụ ship cho.
I think he's on the
Dạ, dạ,
phone.
dạ,
Oh,
dạ.
okay. I was like, I thought he was talking to me. I'm like,
Dạ,
no,
ok chú, để con hỏi lại con báo chú
I
nha.
don't speak that.
Dạ, dạ.
Okay, so let's start with this one. I'm gonna align this to this guy like so. The center, okay. And what you're gonna want to do is F4 like so. Now you can see that my high poly is protruding through my low poly a little bit. That's perfectly fine. You want a little bit of protrusion because what it's going to do essentially is it's going to build a cage around this, and then it's going to project light information outside this way and then inside, and it's going to cast that information onto this mesh right here, which is why it's called baking. So let's file. I'm going to export selected. Let's go Mario coin. I'm going to make a new folder. I'll call this coin tests. I'll call this LOD1. The cool thing is you guys actually have access to Substance Painter. I don't right now. I think I'll try to get it next class, but I'll do all this in Marmoset and you guys will still see the same. Okay, low poly, hit save as an FBX. That's fine. Make sure I don't have animations in this, so I'm not going to try to bake any animations. Cameras, none of that stuff is fine. I'm just going to hit OK. Okay. I'm going to hide this one. Select this guy right here. Right click. I'm going to convert this guy to an editable poly. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to align it to my high poly. Select OK. All right. And you guys can see there's even more of this one. All right. So file, export, selected, LOD. I'm just going to change this to 2. And then hide that selection, grab this one, convert this to an editable poly, and then I'm going to align this guy here. And for this one, I'm not going to put it in the middle. I'm actually going to pull this to the front. All right. And then file, export, selected, and then we'll call this LOD3. So now we have our 3 different LODs ready to go. I'm going to open up Marmoset. My Marmoset tool bag. This is kind of an older version of it. And then I'll show you guys how I bake. And I've already exported the high poly model, but I'll, just so you guys see how I do it. I don't want you guys to feel like, when did he do that? But I'm going to export this one. File, export, selected. And then I'm going to go Mario coin. And then I'm just going to make it high poly. Hit OK. All right, cool. So inside of Marmoset, the Marmoset tool bag, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to create a new baker. All right. I'm going to navigate to where my high poly is, and I'm going to navigate to where my low poly is. All right. Let's load. Coin tests. our high poly. Oops. Go low poly 1. Okay, let's see. It did not. Oh, okay. I need to. I want to see my high poly. Okay, so because it didn't save my turbo smooth in there, so I'm gonna do this. Shift drag, make it a copy. Right click, convert this to an editable poly like so. So now this is baked in there, so I'm gonna export this as yes. Okay. Now let's go back here. There we go. All right.
Hey, it's Joe.
Okay, now I gotta set up my outputs. New folder.
I'm so sorry. I have to leave to get to my next class.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Have a good weekend, y'all.
You too, man. You too. All right, let's set up our texture maps, and then we'll do coin maps. And because of the way Marmoset works, you can auto load your maps based on how you name it. So I'm just gonna load up my high poly here, and then I want to set up my output maps. So I'm gonna configure this. It gives me a bunch of stuff that I can use to bake. So most of the ones I use my normals, I use the curvature, position and height is okay, but I also use the thickness map if it's gonna have some sort of subsurface scattering, ambient occlusion, um, diffuse lighting. I'm gonna add height and position as well, and you can see that it's populating it right over there. All right, and then I've got object ID. If you have multiple objects, um, you might want to use object ID. And the funny thing is, Substance Painter has a lot of the same features where you can add that. So let's see. Object ID. No, I don't need object ID. UV islands, wireframe. No, no, no. All right, I will add an albedo, and I'll add albedo metalness, roughness. Actually, no, no albedo metalness. Just roughness, metalness. Emissive is if it's an object that emits light. So if you've got like a torch or something, or fire or something like that, does it emit any kind of light? Okay, transparency, no, 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 no. Okay. All right, done. That's a lot of maps to bake. I think I didn't. Let me see if I. Preview. Create a new material. actually delete this one. Okay, let's see. It's supposed to load my high poly and my low poly, but it's not doing that. It's got my high poly in here.
Your call has been forwarded.
I'm just going to import it this way. I'll throw this in my low poly. Throw this in my high poly. Go to my bake options. Configure this with all my information. And there's a way where you can name it and it'll do all of the hard work for you, but for some reason I have to do it manually. Roughness. Okay, so alright, so this is the plain version of it. Now I'm just gonna hit bake. Okay, let's set up a bake something. New folder. Test maps underscore plain. Don't crash. Here we go. Alright, so now let's hit the preview. Alright, so now you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, let's configure this. Now let's hide our high poly. So now in video games, what they'll do is they'll take something.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the
Mute you real quick. All right. So as you can see, I get a really clean version of it. And then what I would do in the game is they would flip this around and they would have two sides to it. All right. So let me import another version of our coin test. We'll do 2. All right. We'll make another baker. And then in this baker, we'll load our high poly. And then we'll load two into our low poly here. And then we can bake. Let's configure our maps again. Roughness, metal, albedo. And then we can configure this map. Let's hide. Let's hide this first baker. And then when we look at this one, we still got
I have to go. Are you gonna? Is this basically the assignment for this week?
yeah, unwrap in low poly or your model, and then post your results of
Okay.
your maps and stuff.
Okay. And are you gonna post a video for this?
Yes, I will post this in the chat after the class as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries, man. All right, now let's bake this. It's gonna ask me about a place to put it. New folder. Test 2. Maps. Now let's preview. I can see Baker 2. Okay, Baker 2. Low poly. Let's hide the high poly. To add a light to this. There we go. There must be something wrong with my UVs on this guy. We have materials. Okay, now let's see if I bake it with that material. It will bake properly. There we go. Let's hide our high poly. So now here we go. So you can see that even though I have see, how do I show my wireframe? Show skew. Well, you can still see the geometry hit, but you can see that the information from my high poly has now been baked onto my low poly. Let's hide this. Baker. Oh, it's Alright, so this is the second one. Now let's do the third one and then we'll call it after that. So let's do a new baker, high poly, Baker, quick load, Mario coin, high poly. Let's hide this guy. Oh, that's why everything's black. Okay, I just realized that. Alright, I'm going to change one thing. M on my keyboard. I'm going to turn this into my gold material that I have. I was like, why is it not taking my material? Alright, here we go. Let's add my gold material to this guy. File, export. LQ, file, export as the high poly. Yes, replace. Okay. Okay, and then let's go back into Marmoset. Let's reload. Okay, for some reason. Okay, I was like, what's happening? Alright, still not gold, but that's fine. Baker. Okay. Let's import our low poly number 1. This one has the most geo in it. We're going to put it in our low poly section. Right there. I'm actually going to add a new material to it. Right there. And then we're going to do the same baking options. Configure this bad boy. Height, position, I'll do albedo, roughness, metalness, no emissive, transparency or vertex, diffuse lighting, thickness. Okay. Alright, and now let's set up the output, new folder, test 3. Let's do maps. Okay, and then let us bake. Alright, now that we've baked it, we can hide our high poly and then preview it, and that's what I'm talking about. Here we go. So this is it. Let's turn our light back on. So as you can see, even though the geometry for it is flat, let's go to the material. So this is the material. If I turn off the normal, you can see that there is no information on this model. But once I turn on the normal map, it does a whole lot of heavy lifting. So much heavy lifting that even when I add a light to it, the object acts like the light is actually doing something and it's reflecting on those fake edges that it created. All right, so what I want you guys to create is your low polys and then unwrap it. I think that's going to give you enough trouble by next week. So you don't have to create all the different LODs. Just create one version of the LOD. So you can go from either the super small all the way up to the medium. All right. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Nope.
Okie dokie. Well,
I think I'm lagging a little bit.
okay. No, I can hear you. I can hear you. So, if you guys
Oh,
don't
okay.
if you guys don't have any questions, you guys are free to go. Hopefully, this kind of illuminates some of the stuff that you have to deal with in the game industry.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, no worries. Have a good weekend. If I don't hear from you, just post.
You
Let me
too.
know how everything goes.
Okay. Bye bye. Take care.
You too.
All right, goodbye.